Pardon me while I have a strange interlude. There is nothing else. Life is an obscure hobo bumming a ride on the omnibus of art. Along the misty corridors of time, and in those corridors I see figures, strange figures.
Welcome back, my friends, to the AP Strange Show. I am your host, AP Strange. This is my show, and today's show is brought to you by a new product from Wayne Enterprises. It is a personal safety vault and escape pod. It's guaranteed to protect you against everything from laughing gas to floodwaters unleashed after an explosion at a water tank, and can withstand the blast from a penguin to air rocket. This has been tested in Wayne Laboratories and is a perfect thing to use, especially if you live within the Gotham City limits, where such dangers are often happening to civilians. So go check that out, Wayne Enterprises, Personal Safety Vault and Escape Pod. And on tonight's show, that's an appropriate sponsor because we're entering Gotham and we're going to be spending some time in the city of Gotham tonight. And I was planning on doing kind of a third time's the charm thing, but it's such a big topic. We will talk a little bit about the mess of the movie Batman Forever, but it's a huge topic. And in order to cover such a great, wide, and wonderful topic as Batman and Gotham, I had to get an expert on the subject matter, somebody I've been following for years. Virgo Blade writes plenty of great reviews on comic book and pop culture items, especially comic book movies and things like that. He has his TikTok and he's on Blue Sky, and I've followed him for years now and watched him do all these things. He's also a scriptwriter. Spends a lot of his time writing and talking about these things, and particularly DC Comics, particularly Batman is he was the perfect guest to have on. So welcome to the show, Virgo Blade.
Hey, happy to be here. Talk about some Batman.
Yeah. I had a feeling if I hit you up and said, do you want to geek out about Batman for an hour or so, you'd be happy to do it and not need to prep
Yeah,
too
I mean,
much.
that's my usual day to day. So,
Right. um, where did Batman begin for you in your life?
for me, my older brother was a Batman fanatic. And by that I mean he had posters and comics and toys. So I didn't really have a choice. I was basically indoctrinated into the cult of Batman. And so that's where it, of course, started. But then I branched off into my own and really connected with Tim Drake Robin. So if people
Mhm.
don't know, that's the third Robin. So since this whole theme is threes, he is number three. So there's Dick Grayson, that's the first one. Second one is Jason Todd, and the third one is Tim Drake. So he's the one that I grew up with. So that's where I gained my personal connection to Batman is actually through Tim Drake because I related to him so much. But that's basically where it started. And watching Batman the animated series, and of course the '90s movies, Keaton, Batman Forever, Batman and Robin. That was really the beginnings of it all.
Yeah, yeah, and well, that's great because the third movie, Batman Forever, I think is where Robin is introduced. So
Yes,
in the
yes.
movies, anyway. Yeah,
Exactly. And I was so excited. I loved Chris O'Donnell. He was perfect to me like as a kid. Of course, the older generation had a lot more hatred for it. I personally loved it because I didn't have those same type of like judgments. Of course, as I got older, I was able to see the many, many flaws. But
right.
younger, it's like I got to see Batman, I got to see Robin. I was happy.
Yeah, I often say, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The younger generation is really spoiled with the glut of superhero movies we have that are informed by fan feedback. Where back in the day, it was like you just kind of settled for, you knew that the movie adaptation of your favorite comic book was going to deviate strongly from the comic, and you just accepted it. You're like, well, it's cool to see, they didn't get this right, they got this wrong, but but it was a fun experience nonetheless. Nowadays, they try to stick much more closely with what fans might want. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, they've definitely improved over time and trying to bridge that gap of gaining the mainstream audiences while making the purists happy. And I think overall they've done a better job of doing that compared to like the, Daredevils and the X-Men's of yesteryear. Overall, even though I can sometimes pick them apart, that's kind of what I do. But in general, I do think that comic book movies have improved.
yeah, yeah. And
Mhm.
I mean, Batman Forever is a fun ride, and it was hugely popular when it came out, even though there were a lot of detractors. But it's kind of tough when you change your Batman from Michael Keaton, and yeah, so it seemed like Joel Schumacher went in his own direction with quite a few things, including costume design. I think was a big problem for a lot of people.
Yes, yeah. A lot of people couldn't get past the costume, and it didn't help that that was like the opening shots were show, of the various uh, parts of his costume, and of course the bat nipples were the ones that everyone had an issue with.
Yeah,
So that was definitely a downgrade in terms of the suit. It like let you know what kind of movie you were in for from the beginning.
right, right. And it does kind of make you wonder what could have been with the movie as well under different direction because well, there's so many. But this is in general, this is one thing I love about the Gotham as a bottle universe, as its own little universe, is that there's so many permutations and different ways that you can go that you do have some canon, I guess, but there's so much flexibility with every character. But specifically in this movie, as far as casting goes, it seemed like there were a lot of options for the different characters that could have been that I really would have liked to have explored. I think everybody agreed that Jim Carrey at the time was perfect for the Riddler. Um, but changing Batman was a little bit strange. And also, I would have really liked to have seen Billy D. Williams as Two Face.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Keaton, I loved him as Batman. I feel like he took one look at that script and said, "Nope," he did not want to do that movie, and he left the project. With that said, like I'm actually a big fan of Val Kilmer, rest in peace. And I'm glad that he got that opportunity. Unfortunately, it wasn't the best movie, but he did a very sound job of playing Batman, and even more so Bruce Wayne. Like the previous Batman movies actually didn't focus on Bruce Wayne all that much because Tim Burton, being Tim Burton, is more drawn to the darkness of Batman himself. And I feel like Val doesn't get enough credit for his Bruce Wayne because we get more of like him like at his job, like doing like when Wayne Enterprises, like that more in-depth, more human part of him. And I feel like Val Kilmer took that opportunity because I don't think that he was taken seriously during that time to really give it everything that he had, even though it is a very campy, goofy movie. But he still did, despite all that, a very good performance of selling Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Yeah. And from what I understand, Tommy Lee Jones got the role as Two Face because he had previously worked with Schumacher. Um, but yeah, I mean, Billy D. Williams played Harvey Dent in the first two. How do you think that would have gone? I mean, I understand he was disappointed about not being able to do it, if I'm getting that right.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like if they went in a different direction, like Billy D. Williams would have been perfect for it. Because my thing with Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face is that's not really Two-Face. That's not Harvey Dent. It's a very like weird amalgamation of like Jack Nicholson Joker with kind of Two-Face elements to it, but Harvey Dent isn't that goofy. He's still basically a semi-rational person compared to other Gotham villains who are a bit more extreme. And so Tommy Lee Jones, that's also like not his specialty. He plays very, stoic, straight man type characters who are serious. And so I give him credit for going that far, but also it's like that character didn't warrant that. And especially like in contrast to the Riddler, who you can go a bit more goofy with him. Um, I still feel like I would have preferred him to be more of an oddball than full on Jim Carrey.
Hmm.
Um, because the Riddler is highly intelligent. He's Batman smart. He just happens to be obsessed with riddles, and that's the
Yeah.
like main distinction. But with Tommy Lee Jones, yeah, I just feel like he didn't need to go as extreme as he went with it because it lessens what the Riddler is doing, and also it just feels very out of character. Like watching it now, it is. I don't want to say painful, but I just feel like with the Gotham villains, those are the ones that you have to nail almost as much as Batman himself. They're so iconic that
Right.
like really being precise about their characterizations is crucial to the story.
No, I agree with you entirely, and it feels a bit forced. I think is part of
Hmm.
it because Tommy Lee Jones seems to be trying to match Jim Carrey's energy, and he's
Hmm.
going for the rafters with it, going like full Frank Gorshin. It's almost like the 1960s Batman, you know, with the
Yeah,
level of crazy that he's doing. So
yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Like there's not enough kind of like psychological trauma that needed to be explored with that character. Because first of all, like Two-Face isn't my favorite Gotham villain, and that's something that I didn't realize until recently. Because as much as I love the concept of duality, it's a bit too on the nose. And with like half his face, and then like the good side and the bad side and the flipping of the coin, is actually very two-dimensional in general. That's why I'm actually excited, kind of talking about the future. Sebastian Stan will be playing him in the Batman Part Two. So I'm curious to see what he's going to bring to that because Matt Reeves is such a phenomenal director and writer, and he did an amazing job with the Batman first movie. Anyway, back to what we're
yeah,
talking about.
yeah,
And so he's already starting at a loss with for me like being Two-Face because he's just not one of my favorites. My favorite is actually the Riddler, Edward Nygma, because I tend to like very intelligent characters. And the Riddler, that's what I like loved about him is that he's smart enough to almost like compete against the Batman, but because he can't stop his addiction to riddles, he goes down a dark path and he
mhm,
cannot pull himself back from it. And that's actually a very tragic thing because there's so many highly intelligent people who might have issues in different areas and that prevents them from reaching their potential. And so that's really what the Riddler represents. But yeah, with Two-Face, I just felt like they didn't know what to do with him, so then they just did this.
yeah, right. Well, you
Mhm.
mentioned Batman the animated series, and I think that's the best representation of Two Face.
Mhm.
He's actually scary in that. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like I prefer the more like straight up gangster, especially
mhm,
because you have so many kind of cartoonish or outlandish characters that you can have someone who's more grounded, who is once again almost like a version of Bruce Wayne because he was a DA for Gotham. Like he started from a very sane place, and then Gotham drove him to this. There's also, his physical features have changed. That's also very psychologically traumatizing. And
mhm.
so, but he's not so far removed from reality. He has this thing that, i.e., killing and flipping coins and doing that. But aside from that, he's not one of the more extreme ones. So I feel like you can make him more of a scary gangster rather than a cartoonish villain.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird that they went that way, the scary gangster route, with the Penguin in recent years. I don't know how you feel about that because I'm not like I think it's fun to watch. I gotta say, like the Penguin series that HBO did, and the Penguin as in the Batman. He's cool, and he's in kind of like a Sopranos kind of way. Like he looks like he'd be right at home in the Sopranos, but he doesn't seem
Yeah.
like the Penguin to me, really. No.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, Matt Reeves took a lot of liberties with the Batman, which, as we talked about, there are permutations, there are things that you can adjust with it. And to me, because he executed them so well, I'm actually fine with the changes. Same thing with the Riddler, who's a bit
Yeah.
more, Unabomber. He's
Right.
Edward Nashton, not Edward Nigma. That's not necessarily my preference for it, but what he did with the character is very fascinating and interesting. And that's how I feel about the Penguin in the Batman. Just because, yes, there are some things that I wanted going into it. Like, for example, Penguin is small. He's a short, stubby guy. He's very round. He's Danny DeVito. Like
Right.
that's who like the Riddler actually like looks like. At the same time, that Penguin was a bit more from Batman Returns, just more animalistic in terms of like his characterization and his features. Like there's a bit of a more of like a bridge between human and like creature that I feel
Right.
like Batman Returns went further than expected. But of course, because Tim Burton nailed it so well, I didn't mind that either. So it's really more about the execution than the actual like interpretation itself. And so with the one in the Batman, yes, I went into it expecting or wanting him to maybe be like shorter and stubbier, more of like that classic Penguin. But they did give him like some facial scars. They gave him like a limp. So he's not like purely like, oh, he's just a regular guy. And then the Penguin TV series goes deeper into his family history and his trauma. And that really also helped to sell that even though he looks a certain way and he looks different, he's also very much still damaged. And there are some
Mhm.
things that they incorporated from the comic books, like him. Um, in the comics, he is the owner of the Iceberg Lounge, and that is his goal, like, is to become this very like heavyweight in Gotham crime. It's done in a more realistic fashion in the Batman, but Matt Reeves is constructing like the epic Batman crime saga. And so because of that tone and what he's able to do with the Penguin, I was impressed by his choice because it could have went wrong, but to me, he made the right decisions.
Yeah, I feel like I can't even be upset about it because it's done very well. I mean, that whole series was designed to be binge worthy, but it hit the mark because
Mhm.
when I watched The Penguin, it was the kind of thing that I knew my wife wouldn't care about, so I had to watch it when she wasn't around. Um, but but I couldn't stop watching it. I kind of wanted to run as many as I could, and I don't usually binge shows, but that if it's something I really like, I will. Um,
Yeah, the
so
acting
it's
was
done
so
well.
good. The
Yeah,
the writing was good. I was very impressed with it. And yes, it is a more grounded street level story, which, after Nolan, that's basically been the status quo, which is why I want the James Gunn version to be a bit more embracing the adventure aspect and also the supernatural aspects of Batman. But I feel like what they were setting out to do in the Penguin series, they did very well. Even with Sophia Falcone, it's like they built very well constructed characters who felt real, but still also very Gotham, which is a hard thing to balance. Like they're still insane, unhealthy people, but not to the extremes of, say, Batman Forever.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they're all unfeeling psychos, which is just kind of illustrative of, I guess, organized crime people anyway. But
Mhm.
uh, yeah, I forget the name of the woman that played Sophia, but she was wonderful. She's like a comedian, I guess, right? So
Kristen Milioti, yes.
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah, she's a very talented actress. This is her. She mostly does like comedy, softer stuff. She was also in Black Mirror, uh, but I just had a feeling that she was gonna destroy this role, and she absolutely did. Like she, to me, kind of stole it. Like her
she
story
did.
was just so tragic, and I felt so bad for her, and how that turned her into this villainess. And you almost wanted her to have justice, but then also she was causing so much damage too. And that's the interesting part of creating stories like this is delving into that gray area because like when villains kind of have like a modus operandi that's a bit more um less selfish. Of course it's selfishly motivated, but there's like something underneath that's also driving them. That's what creates compelling characters.
Yeah, yeah. Or when that remains a mystery the whole time, that can also be pretty compelling because, like,
Hmm.
with the Joker, for instance, you never really know why he's doing things a lot of the
Yeah, exactly.
time.
Like with the Joker, like that's where like each person is different. And the Joker, I don't really want him to have a straight up origin. I don't need to know everything about his motivations. His whole point is that he is chaos personified. And
Yeah,
so he is this agent of chaos that just does extreme things because to me that is what life is. We are in perpetual danger, perpetual war that could easily just be stopped, but because of human nature and selfishness and greed and all these other things, it just continues to exist no matter what generation you're in. And to me, that's what the Joker represents, is this never-ending chaos cycle.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. It's a minor obsession of mine because when I get into the phenomena, I've talked a lot about clowns over the years. I feel like I kind of got dragged into it, and the Joker, I think, is tangential to that as the clown
Mhm.
prince of crime. But I've probably spent too much time thinking about and writing about the Joker. But
Have you seen
I agree with your assessment. Yeah.
this is semi off topic but still on topic. Have you seen Welcome to Derry, the TV series?
I watched the first couple episodes and it seemed
Okay.
like it was maybe a little too grim for me, but I might
Okay.
return to it.
Okay. Because I felt like that kind of explored it in a sense, like of him being this kind of cosmic being who's there from
Yeah.
like the beginning of the universe. And it kind of delves into his lore. So if you're kind of looking into clowns and like the phenomenon, that could be an interesting story to check out.
Well, I have thought about that in regards to the Joker because there's this idea of the Joker as a mind virus that I
Hmm.
like exploring, where, especially in the Gotham series on TV, there were a couple potential Jokers before there was like, before they told you who the real Joker was.
Hmm.
The guy that ended up being. Did you watch that series?
The original, the from like the 60s.
No, 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 Gotham, the Gotham TV
Oh, Gotham.
series.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was great in general because it managed to, with the same characters, show you all those different permutations and have them revert
Yes.
back and change. Um, every wacky comic book interpretation. That's my favorite Riddler, I think, because they showed you every version of him.
Yeah. Yeah. And also the actor who portrayed the Joker did an amazing. He's actually one of the best live action Jokers. I don't think he gets enough credit. His name's like Cameron Moynihan or Monahan. He's from Shameless, but
Yeah,
he did a really good job of playing insane. And he ended up being one of the best Gotham villains of the whole series. But yeah, I love how he kept coming back, but his origins would change. I think one time he was like a twin brother or something like that. I'm like,
right,
that's what I want. And like whenever people try to answer that question, I feel like it takes away from who the Joker is supposed to be
right.
because he is this never-ending mystery and the one problem that Batman can't actually solve. And yet they keep going in this perpetual war and they kind of need each other because Batman is order and Joker is chaos. And you really can't have one without the other. And that's really why on a kind of like subconscious level why I feel like Batman knows he can't get rid of him. Of course, he has his own moral compass with never using guns and never killing with his parents, but on a more kind of like contextual level, it is more about how they have to coexist. And if Joker no longer exists, then Batman doesn't either.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, this is all famously explored in the Alan Moore. Uh, geez, why am I going to forget the name of this story? The Alan Moore story that kind of shows a potential origin for Joker. Oh man, I love the book and I can't think of the name of it now.
My mind always goes to the killing joke.
That's the
Um,
one. That's the one.
oh,
The Killing
okay.
Joke. Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I'm
Have
thinking of. Yeah.
Okay. I haven't read that in a very long time, but yeah,
Right.
because I have my own issues with it in terms of how Barbara Gordon was treated and like left. Um, and Alan Moore is a fan. He's one of the best writers ever. His women, not always the best. He paralyzes her, then has no plans for her. And it's not until John Ostrander comes in and creates the Oracle identity for Barbara Gordon
Mhm.
that allows her to really flourish. But yeah, he just kind of like threw her to the wolves and just said, okay, done.
Yeah, and I wonder if he even meant for it to be like a canon Batman story or just a standalone thing. Because it's in my mind, it operates better as a standalone story that is a potentiality in
Mhm.
Gotham because you're given a Joker backstory there, but I think what a lot of people seem to miss, a lot of bros out there seem to miss, is that this is just out of the Joker's fevered imagination. It's not an actual history. It could be, but like it's kind of a big question mark at the end of the day. We don't know
Mhm.
that that's actually his origin story. So
Yeah,
it's kind of funny that people have this idea of like the Joker moment, and it only takes the one bad day to flip over and be a Gotham villain when we don't even know if this is a true story or true telling of the Joker's history, right?
yeah, and that's like the fun part of the Joker is that you can kind of have your own interpretation of what that means, and it can look like Alan Moore's. It can be like mine, where mine is a bit more like Grant Morrison's, where
Hmm.
he is was again like an agent of chaos, who cannot fully be defined.
Hmm.
But the joy of Joker is that it is really up to the eye of the beholder of who this person actually is.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
no, and I agree with that entirely. And as such, I wasn't a very big fan of the movie The Joker, or I liked the sequel better just because they went wacky
That's
with it.
interesting.
But yeah,
Most people feel the opposite because
oh, I
I was
know.
more
Yep.
impressed. I think maybe like I went into the first Joker with low expectations just because I'm very critical. But I ended up liking what they did with it of having him have this disorder, this issue where he has to laugh and how that could drive someone crazy. So it's not like the joy is coming from laughter, it's actually kind of coming from pain. Um, and so I was impressed more so than I thought that I was. So I think the opposite happened with the Joker sequel, where my expectations were higher, but it didn't hit the mark because I love musicals. I love Harley Quinn as a character, but I could just tell that this felt like not really inspired by the comics or really from a place of um, intentional creativity. This felt like almost in spite. Oh, like, oh, we'll do this because you expect that.
Yeah,
And that's kind of also what the director, I believe, said in a sense of basically not wanting fans to like to be like anti-sequel, which I just feel like going out of your way to prove a point to the fans to me always backfires because it just doesn't feel genuine, like it's coming from a place of love. That's why I don't even watch certain shows or watch certain movies if I don't feel like the intention of the creators are there. And I'm not saying that it has to be like a pure biblical adaptation because nothing is. You know, that's
right.
impossible to do. And I actually love when people have their own variations. Nolan's Batman is different than Reeves' Batman, and I love both. It's more about like the approach to it. So I kind of have this whole like kind of philosophy when it comes to superhero media because I can generally tell when is coming from a place of pure intention versus, oh, I'm going to prove a point to these fanboys who just want this type of movie. And
Hmm.
starting from there, to me, usually spoils the story.
Yeah, and then I think even worse than those options is when it seems to be all the decisions are made by a committee, you know? Like
Yes.
I feel like the
And
movie Batman and Robin is kind of like that, where there were a lot of
yeah,
producers involved and people that were just really out of touch, and it just got pulled in a lot of different directions.
definitely. And I mean, that's kind of the crux of Batman Forever because the studio, the company wanted it to go in a brighter, lighter direction over Tim Burton's because they're trying to sell toys. They want people
Hmm.
to go to McDonald's. And that's why it's like even the movie opens with Alfred saying, like, would you like a sandwich? And he's like, we should go through the drive-through or something of that nature. Because it becomes a selling vehicle, you know, to sell products, to sell food. And
Hmm.
so that really is why Joel Schumacher was chosen for Batman Forever, I feel like, is because he was willing to play ball and to give them that lighter Batman that they could try to sell. And to a degree, it was successful because it did better than the previous Batman. Artistically, not so much, but that's kind of the war between art and commerce. And I do think that those two things can coexist. But when one specifically when commerce is too much of a powerful entity, that's when things go awry. And that's what happened essentially with Batman Forever. Even though
Mhm.
there are some gems you can pull from it, but because it was so geared towards this idea of commercialization, it suffered for it.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think you're right, but I think they really felt like they needed to pivot that way to sell toys because Batman Returns was pretty grim. I mean, your
Hmm.
DeVito's Penguin is basically a movie monster,
Yeah.
and the Catwoman is hypersexualized to a point that I can imagine a lot of parents were uncomfortable sitting next to their kid in the theater watching.
True, true. It's funny though, because like as a kid, I just had different sensibilities. Like
Yeah.
I loved Batman Returns. I love the darkness of it. I love the feel of it. Even like the penguin, like when he eats that fish, like that fish
Mm.
looked good to me. Like I like so I just had like a different association with the darkness, but also I was a fan even from a young age of Tim Burton and his style of movies. Like I was very
Yeah.
much about like the atmosphere and tone of it. So like my demographic, they probably would have thought that, oh, a kid that age wouldn't go for that, but I loved it.
Hmm.
At the same time, I also loved in a different way Batman Forever, but I think I knew the quality difference between those two
Yeah.
movies, even
Right.
from a young age. I still enjoyed Batman Forever because I didn't have as much resources and information as I have now. But at the same time, it's like I can tell, like, yeah, no, this is definitely more campy. They're gearing it towards a younger audience, and some stuff worked and some stuff didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's entirely accurate. I'm kind of thinking of it as like and as far as merchandise and toys go, it's kind of the difference between having like a really cool die-cast Batmobile toy and having something that came with like the Happy Meal at McDonald's. Like, where it's still kind of cool. It's a cool little thing, but it's not the heavy duty Batmobile, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
one's more marketable.
yeah, exactly. Because well, I mean, Batman '89 was such a huge success. I think it kind of it set the mold in a lot of ways for that kind of merchandising from superhero movies.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. Uh, so I'm just guessing that they probably lost a little of that with Batman Returns and wanted to go back, as you said, to to the more mainstream all ages friendly kind of idea, which is probably why they introduced Robin too, because you get
Yeah,
Boy
yeah,
Wonder.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, Tim Burton left the project, and then they went in a much lighter tone in order to make it more family friendly. And they also brought in Robin for the younger audience, someone that we could relate to. And in that sense, it did work. Like I was already a fan of Robin, had him in the animated series, read him in the comics, and then now he's in the movies. And he is, the first sidekick ever created in the history of superhero comics. So he is iconic just as a character as well. And to be honest, they did a fairly good job of doing, not saying it's a one for one, because there are
yeah,
definitely liberties taken. But looking back at that scene of like the Flying Graysons at Haley's Circus, it was actually pretty impressive what they were able to do with it. And that might be one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie because Two-Face is the one that is, threatening the lives of the Graysons. And of course, in the comics, it's Tony Zuko. But once again, like for movies, you have to condense and make it simple. You can't introduce a whole other character because then that's a different plot. And Two-Face is searching for Batman's identity. And it was actually very powerful for Bruce Wayne to stand up and say, I'm Batman. Of course, he didn't hear because the crowd is yelling. But that was strangely powerful because there's a lot of like identity discussions happening within modern comic book adaptations with Man of Steel and, Pa Kent telling his son Clark not to come and save him because he
right.
doesn't want people to know. And there's this debate of, is it selfless to show your identity and reveal yourself to the world, or are you putting more people in danger by doing it and yourself in danger by sacrificing your personal life? So the
Hmm.
fact that like he stood up and was so strong in his conviction that he wanted to save these people was actually very powerful. Also, Val Kilmer fought as Bruce Wayne in that scene. And that was once again something that we didn't see that much of in the previous Batman movies.
Hmm.
Also, once again, giving more credit to Batman Forever, I feel like the fighting in general with Batman was better in Batman Forever because that Batman costume that Keaton wore was stiff as hell. Like
Yeah.
it was not made for functionality. Um, versus like Val Kilmer was actually doing like martial arts moves, and you could tell that that came secondary to Tim Burton, who cares more about the aesthetic than he
Hmm.
does about the actual like action part of it. And so yeah, so that's something that I'll give to Batman Forever.
Yeah. But Burton worked within the limitations really well because there's something super cool about Batman barely moving and still beating people up.
Just this is just very stiff. He can't turn his neck, which
Yeah.
actually would be very difficult to fight if you're not able to look to your left and to
Right.
your right. Of course, you
Yeah.
extend your disbelief
Yeah,
for
exactly.
the
Yeah.
vibe of it all. Um, but for functionality, I'm going to give it to Batman Forever.
Yeah. And that's one thing I didn't really like about Dark Knight Rises. I felt like the Batman in that uh, third of the Christian Bale Batman movies is he's not doing very much physically. In the scenes where he is fighting, it's just like he's positioned like a boxer and it's just punching people a lot. You don't see a lot
Yeah,
of
yeah.
kicks or swinging around. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very uninventive, and that's once again not Nolan's strong suit. Like he's good with action. He's great with action. He's also one of the best directors. He's one of my favorite directors. But yeah, the fighting scenes were lacking to me kind of in all the Batman movies, but especially in Dark Knight Rises, where it should have been a lot more grandiose and just more powerful. This was like the finale. This was the
Hmm.
trilogy moment.
Right.
And I didn't feel that sense of like, oh, well, this is Batman coming back from death and destroying his opponents.
Right. I mean, you get to see a hell of a lot of Batman suffering and rehabilitating and a whole lot of weepy Alfred. So, like, you wanted the payoff with some, at least, like, flying kicks or something.
Yes, something more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, oh, disappointing. Yeah.
yeah.
So, you said that the Christopher Nolan ones are your favorite of the Batman movies?
um, I feel like I can't really say right now because Matt Reeves isn't done.
Right.
Um, because to be honest, I like the Batman more than Batman Begins. I feel like Batman Begins did a really good job of recovering after Batman and Robin. Like it's definitely an answer to the campy Batman by going in the complete opposite direction. And so for that, I give him credit. But I feel like the Batman as a piece and how deep and psychological it is a better film than Batman Begins is. Even though I really enjoy Batman Begins. Um, so for now though, yes, the Nolan trilogy, Dark Knight trilogy, is the best films that have ever been made for Batman, mainly because of the Dark Knight.
Hmm.
Um, So I will say that. So the Batman over Batman Begins, but Nolan's trilogy, specifically Dark Knight, is what seals the deal as those movies being the best right now.
Okay. Yeah, that
Mhm.
makes sense. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it is hard to beat The Dark Knight. I mean, that
Yeah.
is just a fantastic movie.
Yeah, that was still like even like every time I watch it, it's like better than I remember it before. And that to me is a mark of a great movie from like beginning to end. It's just nonstop genius. So yeah, it's still to me the best superhero movie of all time.
Yeah. Yeah, and Two-Face kind of gets short shrift in that. He only becomes Two-Face like toward the end and doesn't last very long.
True, yeah.
But
And
he's not the point of the story.
yes. Now that you say that, like maybe Nolan feels the same way I did about Two-Face, where he's a bit one note, and he's like, let me
Right.
not overuse him. But that's what's going to be interesting with Sebastian Stan as Two-Face because he's such an amazing actor. Winter Soldier, funnily enough, is my favorite MCU movie. I love that movie so much. It to me is one of the only ones that can compete with The Dark Knight.
Mm.
Um, uh, so with Matt Reeves, with Sebastian Stan, I'm like, they could win me over with Two Face, depending on where they go with it. So I think this could be the quintessential Two Face um, live action if they do it right. And to be honest, like everything that he's done so far has been amazing. So I think he can get this done.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
fair enough. Uh, oh,
A
I was just
a
gonna say, is it
okay.
fair to say that you're more of a DC guy than a Marvel guy? And I
Oh
think I
oh
already know the answer, but yeah,
yes, yes. I really enjoy Marvel. I like Marvel. I'm just way more
yeah,
connected to the DCU, and it could be because of my, young indoctrination into DC, but I just have this deep-seated love that can never ever stop. I can sit here and watch a DC show for the rest of my like anytime I can watch Batman Dark Knight like anytime I'm on DC mode. I just connect to DC stronger than Marvel because there's this sense of legacy that DC has that I feel like Marvel doesn't have as much. I love the
hmm,
like sense of history and connection, and I just know how the world operates. With Marvel, it's different, and that's completely fine. Not saying one is better than the other. It's about preference. But I love how the DCU has the trinity of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, and the Justice League, and the Teen Titans. And there's an order to it, and there's like a history that you feel the legacy. Whereas with Marvel, it feels a bit more loose. They
hmm,
don't have a trinity. You don't. The teams interact, but their places are just very like divided. And
hmm,
so once again, it's about someone's preference. But I like how DC feels like one cohesive unit over Marvel, which is like a free for all.
right,
And you can kind of that even extends kind of to the Marvel universe because you have, X-Men movies over here, Spider-Man movies over here, Avengers movies there. Of course, there's been crossovers like recently, but with DC, I just feel like it all operates under one umbrella. They haven't executed it perfectly, as we've seen, but
right,
like you can't really have one without the other. Versus I feel like did that and it was fine. And
hmm,
that like for example, even like Wanda, Scarlet Witch, and Quicksilver, their father is Magneto, but in the MCU they couldn't mix with the X-Men, so then
right.
he wasn't. Like and that's like a big thing.
Yeah, it's
So
kind
it's
of a
like
big deal. Yeah.
yeah. So it just feels like, oh, with Marvel, like, oh, it can be that, it can be this. And I like the order that DC has to where certain things have to take place in order for it to be DC. And I just have that Batman connection to it that transcends anything that Marvel has done. But with Marvel, I do like X-Men, Captain America, are probably my two faves.
Hmm.
And street level Daredevil stuff.
Right. Yeah, I mean, when you were talking about revealing identities earlier, it made me think of the more recent Daredevil stuff, the Born Again series,
Mm.
because they introduced that character White Panther and publicly in the courtroom, uh, Matt Murdock exposes him. So it has all these questions around it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
with Daredevil is a funny thing where um, it all takes place in New York and it's all street level crime stuff and political intrigue. And New Yorkers are all upset about the ship sunk in the East River. And it's like, this is the same city where literal aliens were flying around, like blowing shit up. like 10, 15 years ago. Like,
Yeah.
this is the same universe where half the people disappeared for a couple of years.
Right. Yeah.
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 And
I could
Spider-Man's swinging around. Like,
yeah, I could go on a whole rant about the street level Daredevil side of the MCU. But I'll condense it for this because I will give them credit because they are now finally merging, with Spider-Man Brand New Day. Punisher will be in that, and there's rumors that Daredevil will be in it too. I think he will, because I think they're going to do like uh, the Devil in Cell Block D storyline. Um, but yeah, they haven't done it well in the past. But to be fair, during that time in the MCU, I like that it was so divided because I wasn't really feeling what the MCU was doing at that time with like Captain America Civil War. So
yeah.
as I said, I loved Winter Soldier. That's one of my favorite MCU films, superhero films in general. Civil War, I don't like that movie. It is an Avengers movie. That's number one. It's all those heroes there. It's not really Captain America is there, but he needed to be more of a focus. Um, and also they forced Spider-Man into that movie at the last second because he's Spider-Man. It didn't make sense for the story. Um, and that to me is where the MCU went into like this very team up mode type of um situation where like all these movies had to have like these pairs, which didn't always make sense. Versus like Daredevil, which felt street level, it felt confined, and I'm like, I prefer to be over here.
Yeah.
Um, at the same time, it's like if you are operating in a world where Spider-Man exists in New York, where people are disappearing, where the Avengers had that huge fight, it
Right.
probably needs to be a bit more connection to that. Um, but from like a story perspective, I like that it was in its own world because it could really focus on the story and the characters.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
I wasn't liking what the MCU was doing at that time. Now, where
And
they're going
also, I
now,
mean, we're worth mentioning that the original series was a Netflix series and it wasn't
mhm,
really part of that whole, and now it's kind of more merged, right? So that's a little
right?
different,
Yeah,
but yeah,
like they made references to things like the Battle of New York, like that was
yeah,
like reference, but it was enough to say to not be able to like actually connect the two stories because of rights issues. In my mind, like they were always connected just because once again I come from like the superhero world where I like continuity and things affecting the other things, but from, an industry way, like they couldn't really do it. But now they can, um, I have a good feeling that this is going to be the best version of what we should have had before, which is Spider-Man, Punisher, Daredevil interacting because they operate in the same city.
right.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I think that'll be great to see. And it'll be interesting to see because they'll probably have to tone down Punisher. Like I saw in
Oh
the
yeah.
trailer, the
Mhm.
trailer that you posted and made a comment on was Spider-Man like shooting his web slinger at the gun and telling, saying no guns, no killing to Punisher.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
They're going for the Batman Forever crowd.
Yeah.
So so yeah, so Frank Castle is not gonna curse. He's not gonna blow people up. He'll be on his best behavior for this one, but he is gonna have his own special, and that's where I'm sure he's gonna go completely off and gonna go to the extremes that we know and love him for.
Yeah, because I mean that street level stuff is a lot more violent, a lot more
Mhm.
gory.
Mhm. Yes, a lot more.
So this is something that I like to think about because Gotham City is generally considered to be kind of just a fictional stand-in for New York anyway. Feels like
Mhm.
it's based on New York in a lot of people's minds. Um, and New York is also called Gotham sometimes. But uh, uh, one can make the argument that in the DC universe, Gotham is similar because you do have beings like Superman that people know exist, but he's over in Metropolis. And so like it's almost like the outside DC universe doesn't often go to Gotham. Gotham just is allowed to exist on its own and be its own little world, which is great. I love that, because then it doesn't have to be a street level New York versus Stark Industries Tower, New York.
Right. Yeah. 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 And I feel like with how I kind of rationalize that is that Batman has a hierarchy and he has to always be the one at the top. So having too many superheroes come in and like save the day sends the wrong message to Gotham. Like they have to believe in Batman. Of course, he's gotten better with asking for help. Just recently in the Batman series, he brings over Green Lantern Alan Scott to give him advice because Vandal Savage is the new commissioner. So he's able to adapt and to be more open to metas in Gotham. But overall, it is its own world outside of like the other DCU, which is also a breath of fresh air because that's why you come to Gotham for Batman stories and for street level stories. They can flirt with elements here and there of metas. But for example, in the Nightwing series, they brought in the Titans Tower and they put it in Bloodhaven, which is its own city apart from Gotham, but it's very much like Gotham. And I didn't like that because it just felt like it was merging two worlds that didn't need to be merged. Like I want
Yeah,
the Titans over there, then Nightwing is in Bloodhaven protecting his city his way. And when you blur those lines, it takes something away from the city. So I like that Gotham feels like its own world amongst this very superhero driven world.
yeah, yeah. I think so too. But I also like with the Justice League comics how Batman is still kind of top dog a lot of the time in a lot of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
stories. Yeah,
Yeah, Batman is Batman no matter what room he goes into. He can be on the street level and then he can be in outer space in the watchtower. And that's what's so cool about him. He's a master strategist and he earns the respect of the mightiest superheroes in this universe, which shows how powerful he actually is.
yeah, yeah. And
Mhm.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
Um, One thing that has concerned me in recent years, and I wrote a bit about this, is that our current reality and politics and the world stage and just the way people behave and the way people act has become more cartoonish,
Hmm. Yes.
while the comic book material has become more realistic and getting
Yes.
down to that street level. So I don't know if you think that there's like a supernatural quality to this. I do, but I don't know where you stand on this. Where if you could speak at all to the idea of of this phenomena of like a merging of the realities, kind of from a comic book sense or a magical sense or a philosophical sense.
Oh, yes. I can definitely speak to this because I think about it a lot. So, as a kid, I grew up where Lex Luthor became president. You
Yeah,
know, it's like, so people always like to say, oh, comics are ridiculous and cartoonish and not realistic. But comics prepare you for how insane the actual world is. The
mm,
actual world, we deal with insanities on a daily basis. We just tell ourselves that they're normal. They've been normalized, but they're actually not. You know, we don't need to depend on gas. We know it's destroying the planet, but we still use it. That's
yeah,
actually an insane thing to do. Why? Because the industry is benefiting off of our dependence on it. And so there are so many things like that where we brush it off, but it's actually insane. Oh, why are people dying on the street when we have more than enough food to feed them?
mm,
That's insane. So then to call superhero comics and to treat them as if there's something lesser than or ridiculous is actually the height of insanity because this world is far more ridiculous than that cartoon world is
right,
because of those reasons. So I feel like the beauty of superhero comics is that they allow you to address and deal with the insane and to try to fix terrible situations and address them no matter how extremely bizarre they might actually seem. Versus our world is to, what did the president do today? Something else weird. Let's all act shocked. As, I have not been shocked by a single thing that he's done ever. Like I knew that this that this is the natural course of action that this would take. Like
Right.
he's constantly just proving who he is time and time again. It is insane to me to constantly be so shocked when this is how it's always been. And so I feel like the beauty of superhero comics is once again it allows you to address these insane behaviors into interrogate them. And sometimes, yes, in a straightforward, like beat 'em up way, but even just calling them out or speaking truth to power and dealing with huge egos that, of course, are taken to the extreme. But there are extreme people in this world, as we see. We want
Mhm.
to rationalize things in order to put them into boxes to make us feel more comfortable. And we can't always do that because then we are brushing them aside and not really dealing with the issues at hand. And that's why I feel like people have an aversion to superhero comics and they really need to inspect that. Why do they say we have superhero fatigue, but not horror movie fatigue? There are
Mhm.
way more horror movies than there are superhero movies. And I'm not dissing horror movies. I enjoy some of them, but there's an Insidious 6 coming out. Who's saying, oh, that's enough Insidiouses? You know,
Yeah.
but there's a few superhero movies that come out last year and people lose their minds and they say, oh, superheroes are over because they didn't make this much money. When Deadpool and Wolverine made $1 billion only a couple years ago.
Mhm.
So there's this hatred for superheroes that I feel like stems from them seeing their own reflections because they can't interrogate it in a meaningful way because they can't actually address the real issues that's happening in our world. If you can't look outside and notice all these strange things, then I really don't trust your opinions on what comic books should be.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can agree with all of that.
I've thought about this.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and you mentioned the Lex Luthor being president thing, and like that always struck me because I remember that too, and thinking, "Oh, that would never happen. Lex Luthor is the supervillain. Why would you, you know?" And but we see this a lot in comics. We mentioned Batman Returns, so the whole thing was the Penguin was going to be the mayor of Gotham, and in the current,
Kingpin and Daredevil.
yeah, yeah, and
Mhm.
Daredevil, you got Kingpin being mayor of New York and stuff
Mhm.
like that. So it all
So
seems
why are
pretty
so
on the
why
nose.
are people
Yeah,
surprised if we've seen this before? You know,
right.
people, so that's what's fascinating about how society operates is that there's truth being spoken to you. Yes, it's wrapped in a different package, but the whole point of stories is to address the things that reality isn't confronting. Like
Mhm.
I think of Watchmen and how it shows the Tulsa Race Massacre. A lot of people didn't know that that actually existed,
Yeah.
So when people downplay superhero comics, I get offended because there are so many more insane things in this world than there are in the comics. And these stories are supposed to teach us things. It's not always directly literal, but sometimes it is with Lex Luthor. But you can always take something from these stories that you can then apply to your real world versus trying to act as if our real world is sane. So when something like this situation that we're in happens, you're not actually surprised. And so I think maybe being raised on superhero comics and understanding how both worlds operate and actually the similarities prepared me for the current state that we're in.
Yeah, yeah. It almost does feel like you have multiple timelines in a comic book world like colliding these days
Yes.
to me.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like the
Very
Crisis
much
on
so.
Infinite Earths sort of thing.
Yes. That's exactly what it feels like.
Yeah. But I don't know, like what can we do? I mean, we can interrogate it, like you said, we can
Yeah. I
but
think
we
we
all
have
need
to.
our own individual bat caves.
Yeah. I think the first step is admitting the truth. And I think that
Yeah.
that's very hard for people to say. For example, this is the true face of America. We, some people aren't affected by it, but other people are. And so I think, once again, am I surprised by anything that has unfolded? No, because of all of the injustices that I've seen throughout my life and how I know that my America operates. So I think that the first step is saying, like, okay, this is the absolute problem. we had one black president, and then this took place.
Right.
There's a correlation here. You know, we are in this situation because of that. And people still have a hard time of admitting these very basic truths. But then they want to take issue with superhero comics for being unrealistic. And these, to me, this isn't in a subjective situation. We can look at how things unfolded and find what the culprit is versus saying, oh, this isn't the America I knew. It is to me. And these
Right.
were the choices that we were actually confronted with. It was being woke or tyranny. And too many people chose tyranny. And
Yeah.
that's why we're here today.
Well, too many people were very comfortable, and the anti-woke stuff didn't affect them directly, so they were totally oblivious in a lot of ways, you know. Like,
Yep.
yeah.
Now look, gas prices.
Right. Yeah. People were comfortable to say, you know what, it doesn't matter if you vote or not, so I'm not gonna, like, well,
Yeah.
yeah, look where
And
we
then
are.
yes, and then the people in power take advantage of that as they always do, because they benefit off of those attitudes, which is really why they don't want things taught in schools, why they don't want people to have information or to be woke, in order for them to take from all of us, having
Mhm.
us fighting each other so that they can stay the 1% and have the money and have the wars and continue their dominance. So they really benefit off of the ignorance of people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, well, on that note, that makes me wonder what you think of more modern criticisms of Batman that I've seen online as millionaire Bruce Wayne. Like, the millionaire playboy archetype is kind of a dated concept at this point,
Mhm.
but it's also a convenient way to explain how he gets all those wonderful toys, is that he's
Yeah.
very brilliantly rich, right? So,
Yes.
how do
Yeah.
you feel
That.
about that? Like, the Bruce Wayne millionaire beating up low level crooks
Right.
criticism.
Yeah. Actually, to be honest, I feel like, once again, both sides are very divided, and I feel like there is a valid argument to be made, just because how much can be accomplished with how much Bruce Wayne has. Why are there dilapidated buildings in Gotham City if he can afford to fix them? Like, these
Right.
are political issues that do need to be addressed in the modern context. It's fine that it wasn't in the past, but I feel like nowadays these are the questions that should be asked, and I don't think people should get defensive about it. And they do that with Batman. To me, these characters are strong enough to hold up against the modern world. And
Mhm.
that's what I feel like the Batman does so well. That's why I gave credit to Matt Reeves for actually going deeper into Bruce Wayne being a man of privilege, so much so that he ignores his responsibilities as Bruce Wayne, as someone who is responsible for a company, and how much good he can actually do there. Instead, he wants to go out and dress up as Batman and fight criminals, which isn't
Mhm.
bad in and of itself, but you're attacking the problem and not the root of it.
Right.
And that's where I feel like modern interpretations of Batman need to address that, and they actually have been. So how I feel about it is that yes, Batman should be doing more, um, as everyone who has privilege and opportunity and money should. That should be a mandatory thing, um, versus just taking on in a vigilante role. Like,
Mhm.
he has power as Bruce Wayne that a lot of people don't have. The people who are robbing banks don't have money.
Yeah.
You have money. So how do we fix the root of the problem? And I believe that comic books are strong enough to hold up to these criticisms, and that they can be introduced into the story. And once
Mhm.
again, that's why I appreciated Reeves's Batman so much. So yeah, that's how I feel about it. Batman should be doing more. In more recent incarnations, he has been, which
Yeah.
once again is a testament to how writers will take what's happening in the world and apply it.
Yeah. And I think the premise generally was too that Gotham is such a hopelessly crooked place where all the officials and everything were pretty crooked as well, that
Mhm.
you really couldn't make much headway just as a philanthropist
Mhm.
doing stuff because people were just gonna subvert it anyway through the system. But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
and
as a millionaire, you should be able to do something about the systemic issues that cause
yeah,
this, you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
precisely. Like you do have power and privilege, and that is what I believe is going to go even deeper because you said you watched the Penguin, and it is this epic crime saga, and it shows the exploitation of people as well as the how political power is wielded in order to harm vulnerable communities, and that's really where like Oswald is ascending to in that story. He's gaining more political power, which will allow him to be more corrupt and to take advantage of more people. So that is something that really goes hand in hand with Batman's story.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think so. All right, so this is a question I like to bring up when I do Third Time's a Charm, and considering how many Batman movies there are, it might be a tall order. But where would you rank Batman Forever on the list of of Batman movies, or even of the original run? I mean,
Okay.
because I think that would be what, like seven movies, eight if you
Yeah.
include the TV movie from the '60s.
Right. Yes. Oh gosh. 60s movies. Mm.
Well, there was just the one I think with Adam West, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Are we counting animated movies?
Oh no, I wouldn't count those because
Okay.
then you'd be up in the 20s as far as
Oh,
movies
yeah.
go, I
Okay.
think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So let's see. So the Dark Knight, the Batman, um, Batman Begins, Batman Returns, Batman, Tim Burton, 1989. Okay. Maybe the question is Batman Forever or Batman and Robin? I think,
Yeah, that's the real question, I think. Which one's
yeah.
worse?
I think I think I prefer Batman and Robin. It could just because there's more Robin in it. To
Yeah,
be
okay.
completely honest, I can't say if it's a better movie. Probably need to watch it again, but I would say Batman and Robin above Batman Forever. Um, so I guess that does make it kind of the last.
Yeah, bottom
Um,
of the barrel. Yeah.
yeah, but it's funny because I don't hate it the way that other people hate it. I almost like appreciate it in a like nostalgic way.
Right.
So even though it's in last place probably, I still have a soft spot for it. Because it was my childhood, and there are things, as I mentioned, to pick apart from it. I really feel like Val Kilmer did a great job as Bruce Wayne, um, and how that story delved more into that aspect of it. The CGI, not the, like going from the Tim Burton city to that was not a great transition.
Right.
um, but aesthetically, it wasn't the best film, and also character wise, with where it went with the villains, there were a lot of flaws. With that said, I still see the gems within all the disarray.
Yeah, and I do think it's fun. I mean, I think it's a
Mhm.
fun movie anyway. They're both fun on their own on their own level, but but yeah. Um yeah, for me I think I think I like it better than Batman and Robin because I think Batman and Robin suffers just from having to try to introduce too many characters. Like
I think though I probably enjoy Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy more so than Riddler and Two Face.
yeah, but they try
Yeah,
to shoehorn Bane into it too, which is just
that was
terrible.
awful. That was
Yeah,
awful. That was so disrespectful. Because Bane, he's a strategist. He's one
right,
of Batman's smartest villains. The reason why he's able to break the Batman is because he psychologically broke him.
right.
He releases the people of Arkham, the villains of Arkham Asylum. Batman has to go through his rogues gallery before getting to him. He's mentally and physically exhausted, and then
Yeah,
he
he's the
breaks his
final
back.
boss. Yeah, he's the
Yes,
final boss, man.
exactly. And they just turned him into this weird monster grunty guy. Yeah, so I like ignore him. I like for a second forgot that he was in it. I'm like, oh yeah, Bane was in it because that's not Bane.
Right,
That's disrespectful, is what it is.
right. Yeah. Yeah, that certainly knocks the movie down a few pegs
Yeah,
just for
yeah,
that. Yeah.
definitely. But I love Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy, probably the best villain of those two movies.
Okay.
Um, just because Mr. Freeze is Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's just saying ice puns,
Right.
um, which are memeable. They're funny, but I think Uma Thurman's portrayal was just iconic. Like, she's not obviously like purely Pamela Isley, but she's able to sell the camp in a way that few other people can. That doesn't even feel that distinct from the character. So that's where I feel like
Yeah.
I have to give it. I mean, it's not like a high prize of being
Yeah.
the best villain in a sea of not even mediocre ones. But with that said, I loved her performance as Poison Ivy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that is the thing about City is that we're really cornering the market on villains. Like the villains
Hmm.
that Batman has, virtually none of them have like superpowers. And but they're all just like the best. They're the best
Hmm.
villains.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got the best rogues gallery. The only one that comes close is Spider-Man. But I
Yeah.
feel like what puts Batman over the edge is that they're all representations of his psyche, of different parts of it. Mr. Freeze is how he's stuck in one place. He can't move on. And that's really
Mhm.
what Batman the animated series taught me and why I have such a high bar for the Batman villains because they really did some of the best Batman work, like even from the comics, so much so that they included concepts from the show into the comics. So that to me
Yeah.
is kind of the bar for Batman stories.
Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't have Harley Quinn without the animated series, right? So
Yeah,
yeah.
very true.
Um, but yeah, yeah. Um, it's hard to beat those Gotham villains, man. But
Yeah.
Batman manages.
Every night.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been a blast. I'm sure we could do this all day because I know you love Batman and I love Batman. It's always fun to talk Gotham.
Yes.
Um, but I really do appreciate you coming on. It's great to finally talk to you. Um, but what do you have in the works? What are you working on these days? Do you have any projects coming up, and where can people follow you online?
Yeah, so more videos about comics, TV shows, and movies. I'm working on this kind of bigger project where I want to define the various comic book ages: Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age, Modern Age. But really, with the Modern Age, I want to kind of analyze it in a deeper context because it's way too broad. And so much
Hmm.
has happened from 1985 up to this point to where we can't just say modern age. So that is a bigger project that's coming up in the future. So look out for that. Apart from that, I'm on TikTok, Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram. Just search Virgo Blade and you'll find me.
All right, excellent. Well, I guess thanks again for coming on, and thank you everybody for tuning in and listening. And keep watching the skies for that old bat signal. All right, talk to you soon, man.
All right, I'll see you. Thanks for having me.